When I actually got to the program, I realized that it was the most in-depth, hands-on experience that I've ever experienced. I came out of there one more motivated to be a OBGYN, but I came out of there with a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be an OBGYN. It's not just I do the surgery and I'm done. I didn't grow up seeing a lot of successful doctors or nurses. That's not something you see. So it doesn't seem tangible. It doesn't seem like something you can achieve. So I'd want people to understand how important it is for students to experience future careers that they can possibly pursue.
Welcome to the Future Ready NYC Alumni Series. Ayannah, it is great to see you again. For those who are watching and listening, tell us your name, the year you were part of the Future Ready NYC Internship Program, the high school you graduated from, and where you landed after high school.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction. It was nice to see you again as well. My name's Ayannah Fernandez. I was a part of the first year of Future Ready, so 2023. I went to the High School for Health Professions and Human Services. And since my graduation and my participation in the internship, I have been at the Sophie Davis Program at CUNY School of Medicine on the City College campus.
When I think about Future Ready, and truthfully, I even think about some of the high school work that we ended up launching, you've been a key figure in a lot of that. You were in the, I don't know if you remember, you were in the first video that we did. You were
Yeah.
on stage when we launched the Northwest School of Health Sciences. You were one of the student representatives that were really like a foundation of this work. And so I want to start by just saying thank you for always raising your hand. We were on a podcast together. So one, I just want to start by saying thank you for that. That commitment from you has been very much appreciated for me personally and definitely the organization. I want to take you back. When you think back to that moment being in the program, how were you feeling about your future at that time?
I love that question. So at the time, I was very enthusiastic. I was full of hope, potential, enthusiasm. And when I found out I got into the program and at the start of the program, I felt like I was on the right path. I was like, okay, this is going to be my first step into medicine. So really, in short, I just felt very enthusiastic. I was doing what I needed to do to get to my goal of being a doctor.
And before the program started, what did you think the internship was going to be like in Future Ready NYC?
So first, it was nothing like how I thought, in a wonderful way, in a great way. I thought it was gonna be because previous to the Future Ready program, I did a short internship at NYU with nurses, and we kind of just sat there in a boardroom and had conversations. It was more conversation heavy, and we did some things like CPR, but nothing really in depth. So I thought that's what this program was going to be. Because, sometimes when you hear like descriptions, you're like, oh, they're embellishing. Like, it's not actually going to be like that. But when I actually got to the program, I realized that it was the most in depth, hands on experience that I've obviously at the time ever experienced. And honestly, since then, I've never experienced something that hands on. So, yeah.
That's great. And so was there like a moment when you were in it where you realized like, oh, this is bigger than I expected? Because you mentioned something about like it was so hands-on, but was there like a specific moment that was like, oh, I didn't think this was coming?
There were so many moments like that, especially with my experience. I can't pinpoint one, I can pinpoint a few. My opportunity to sit in on the sterilization and the C-section, that was very spur of the moment. I was in the labor and delivery unit and I was supposed to really just be sitting there with a nurse. And then the nurse came back and was like, hey, the OBGYN said that you can come in and watch. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know that that was going to be an opportunity. You guys said that it's possible, like make sure you're wearing this just in case it's possible, but I didn't know. So when that happened, it was very a surreal moment. Like, this is way more in depth than I ever thought. Like, I'm watching this woman deliver a baby via C-section and then be sterilized after that. And then the doctors being so in depth explaining everything, the due process. Also, everybody in the program made sure that I understood the idea of community, which also wasn't something I expected. I'm seeing how the nurses are very vital for this whole situation as well. They have to count everything. They have to make sure everything's there. They have to scan it. It's not just about the doctors and the residents doing it. It's the nurses as well. And that was another situation where I noticed like, oh, this is way more hands-on than I expected.
I love that. And I often talk about how immersion really, that's where that learning happens. Because to
100%.
your point, learning about a C-section in a textbook is different than having the actual OBGYN
Yeah.
walk you through what they're doing. I recall that moment. I remember the patient gave you the green light as well, right? Which was awesome for them. You never know what you're going to get. But the fact that they understood you were learning and gave you that opportunity to be a part of that truly life-changing moment for her. I'm glad you got a chance to see that. So they answered one of my questions around, was there a moment that really stuck out with you? I think that really touches it. But, tell me a little bit about after that moment, how did it change how you saw yourself and where you fit into the healthcare landscape? Because I think there's a connection with you and OBGYN, right?
Oh, 100%, yes. I've ever since I've been interested in medicine, I think I've always leaned towards OBGYN. So after experiencing that and seeing it for what it is, to give some background, in other internships and being around other medical professionals, I've heard other surgeons say that OBGYNs aren't real surgeons. Being joking, but there's some that I believe it. Not that it's actually true, but they really believe that. So I went in there like curious to see what they really do. And when I saw what they really do, you're like, oh, that's not true. They're real surgeons, they're real doctors, and they have a lot on their plate, and there's a lot on stake. The baby, the mother's life, everything. So I came out of that situation. I don't know how to put into words. It was really like you said, life changing. I came out of there one more motivated to be a OBGYN, but I came out of there with a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be an OBGYN. She followed this patient throughout her pregnancy. Now she's performing this tricky surgery on her and delivering the baby and making sure her and the baby is okay. I got to see how it's a whole thing. It's not just I do the surgery and I'm done. I got to see everything. So I think that was a very eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah. And how do you think you use that skill today, even though you're in school, but like some of the things that you picked up through this experience, how do you use some of those skills today?
I can say it's more of a motivator. That's what I would say. Being able to see what you can do and the change that you can make firsthand really puts that battery in your back to make it through by any means possible. And that experience has was a huge motivator for me. It was a huge battery in my back to make sure I'm able to one day do what that doctor did or that surgeon did for that patient. I want to be able to do that. Also, seeing how meticulous everyone is with everything, like how I explained before, you have to count everything, you have to scan everything. Seeing how you can't beat around the bush, you can't cut corners, you have to in everything in life, it has to be precise. I feel like I've also tried to take that into my personal life as well, my academic life as well. So those are the skills I got or something that I've taken away from that has helped me. But the biggest one is the inspiration. Like it inspires you.
That's huge. When you think about who you were before the program and who you are now, what's different?
Outside of academics, because obviously my academics plays a big role into the difference in who I was before and who I am now, but it's made me a more compassionate person. You don't realize what patients go through, what goes into these things. And after not just the OBGYN experience, but just experiences throughout the whole program, like the ICU unit, like being able to have all these experiences and seeing all these things, I've left it a much more well-rounded and compassionate person.
And would you say that Future Ready NYC, the internship, prepared you for what came next now that you are in school? And if so, in what way?
So, 100%. So, we don't do it that much right now, but when I was in the pre-matriculation portion of the program going into my freshman year, we did these mock medical scenarios. So, you're in a mock hospital and you're kind of pretending you're a physician, and how are you going to address this patient? What are you going to do? How are you going to address yourself? How are you going to make sure you are going into the situation with compassion and understanding of everyone's situation? So since I got to do that at the Future Ready program, I already had a advantage because I've experienced speaking to patients, being around it, seeing how nurses approach these situations, how doctors approach these situations, how they speak, how they present themselves. So that is a good example of how it has prepared me for school and the things we do at CUNY Med, Sophie Davis Program.
If a student were considering the Future Ready NYC internship, what would you want them to know?
Oh, so much. I would want them to know or understand, because knowing and understanding are two different things. And these students need to understand how great of a opportunity this is. And to take advantage, you need to know that you need to take advantage of every opportunity you have at hand. Networking, making sure you show up every single day, you're involved, you're interested, you're asking questions so you can take full advantage of the opportunity. So I would want them to understand how great of an opportunity it is. And if you do want to go into medicine, how much it motivates you and how much it just highlights what you're going to want to do in the future.
And if you could say one thing to leaders or partners who support programs like this, what would you want them to understand about the students who are coming through?
I want them to understand how a lot of these students, I came from a public school. So a lot of these are coming from public schools, and we're not usually given the opportunity to see people in the role we want to be. I didn't grow up seeing a lot of successful doctors or nurses. That's not something you see. That's only when you go to the hospital you see it. So it doesn't seem tangible. It doesn't seem like something you can achieve. So I'd want people who are partners with Northwell or Future Ready to understand how important it is for students to experience or have an insight of the future careers that they can possibly pursue. Because in Future Ready, for me, what I took in the most was the nursing and the doctor's experiences that I saw. But there's a lot of things that are aside from that, like kids were exposed to the research portion of it. They experience different things that don't seem what everyone thinks of when they think of hospital, nurses, doctors. You get to see everything, and it can give them an insight of what they can do.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because when I came up with the structure, we did that intentionally. The nursing rotation, the EMS rotation, and then that healthcare roundtable rotation, which was primarily lab, but that was then our opportunity to show you all, as much as we could, some of the other possibilities that exist within healthcare. So to your point, I'm glad you mentioned it. The research piece, we talked about that. We have behavioral health, food and nutrition, a few other things, because it is important, because not everybody is interested in the doctor nurse route. And we like to, one of the big things of the program is just how we show them the possibilities that exist within the healthcare system, specifically at Northwell.
In last year, my U2 year, we did a summer program, and it was a class, and we had to go out there onto the field. Like, we would be there at these AIDS walks or in Union Square. Sometimes they have like these health pop-ups, and we had to go to all these places, the welfare office, and go to these pop-ups and really be there and understand how it's not just, oh, this person's getting surgery or this person's in the hospital. There's so many different things that fall under the healthcare system that a lot of people aren't aware of. And I know the Future Ready program gave me a good introduction to that, with the EMS speaking to us about all the things that they've experienced or all the things they see. It's not just, sometimes it's like we said, mental health crisis. Sometimes it's not this person has a cut and they need bandage. Sometimes this person's having a mental health crisis. How do I, as a medical professional, that could be nurse, that could be doctor, that could be PA, that could be EMT, that can be a lot of different things. But how do I address this and help this person? Because it's not the textbook example of when we think hospital, we think we're staying in the hospital for something. So that experience at Future Ready has single-handedly helped prepare me for certain things or certain conversations that we're having in school about someone who has asthma, certain communities that are affected more by these chronic illnesses, someone who suffers from mental health, and how does mental health compare to, let's say, a heart condition? And how do we make sure that we take them seriously and we look at it equally? So that portion of the Future Ready program definitely helped prepare me for that as well.
That's good to know. You're just warming my heart, Ayannah. You are, and I know I've said this in a few other ones, but you all are why we do this. And it's important that we plant those seeds, because I think you all need to know about these things. And
Right.
the origin of us even starting this is because young people are interested. They don't have necessarily access or exposure to some of those opportunities. It's up to industry, us in particular, to be one of the many trying to provide those opportunities. So it's good to hear from someone who's been a part of it that it's actually resonating. So I love that. Now, when you look ahead, and I know you're still in school now, but where do you see yourself going next?
Well, for me, it's going to be a lot of school. So ahead is ahead of school. But where do I see myself? Well, I would love to be at Northwell. I would love to be at Northwell, but I see myself helping people. All joke, I see myself helping people. I see myself make a difference. My experience at the Future Ready program has also highlighted that it's not just about knowing the textbook explanation of this. It's being able to connect with these patients on a human level. So I see myself helping people. I see myself making a difference, hopefully at Northwell.
I remember you had a chance to meet Michael, our former CEO, during the launch of the high school, and I think you all exchanged information at that time. And we talk about you often in the org. And so, look, when the time comes, would love for you to definitely consider Northwell. No, it's a shameless plug, but would love for you to consider coming back to work at Northwell. That possibility, having what we like to call that full circle moment, would be beautiful for you to then come back and see what it's like to now actually work here, especially having experienced it that long ago. And you're right, you got a lot more schooling left. So that may be a few years down the road, but
Right.
hopefully that could be something that happens in the future.
I would definitely love to come back to Northwell. From what I've experienced and what I've seen is that there's a sense of community and mutual respect amongst everybody, amongst nurses, PAs, doctors. There is no I feel I'm better than you. We're a team, and without one or the other, we cannot properly help this patient. So that's what I really loved about Northwell, and that's aside from my experience, I would like to come back because I really do like the teamwork aspect.
Yeah, and one of our values, we talk about truly together, and so we really try to embody that. Look, I appreciate you trusting me with the story, trusting me throughout all these years. I done brought you into a few things, so always saying yes. So I really appreciate that. And before we wrap, is there anything we didn't talk about that you feel is important to let the people who are watching or listening know?
I touched on taking advantage of the opportunity. I want to say have faith in yourself, especially for the students who want to come into the program. I know for some it could be daunting because this is the first time that you're going into a program or you're going into the medical field in a way that you never really experienced before. Something I would have liked to tell myself if I could go back to 2023 is to have faith in yourself and take advantage of every opportunity and don't doubt yourself. And obviously, with your help, but with that mentality has helped open doors for me that I feel like would not have been open if I didn't have that mentality, which is also was honed in the program. They teach you to, have faith in yourself. This could be you one day. So,
Absolutely. And we definitely mean that wholeheartedly. So look, thank you for being a part of Future Ready NYC, the inaugural class, the OG internship class. Right? We didn't even have uniforms for you guys at that
yeah,
time. Now
we just
there's
had
like
the
socks and polos.
IDs.
So
Yes.
apologies, please forgive us. Right? We didn't have
No,
that
it was
then.
wonderful. It was wonderful.
But I'm so glad you had a good experience, and I appreciate you lending your voice to something that will help future students truthfully see what's possible in this type of experience. So, Ayannah, hope you have a great day, great week. Wish you all the
Thank
best.
you.
And of course, let's stay in touch.
Yes, you as well. Thank you.